Welcome to the Danny Carlson podcast, your resource for growing the business and mindset for a life of unrestricted freedom. Now here's your host, online marketing acrobat, Danny Carlson.
What's up, guys? Danny Carlson here with the Danny Carlson podcast, and today we are live on location at the Momentom Collective residency in Sumbawa. It's this little island, 2 islands over from Bali, which is where I'm currently living. And we have a really interesting guest today. He has a very diverse background with more than a decade of traveling all over the world. He is one of the co-founders of this business that I'm staying at here, and is really inspiring the vision for it. And he's also a published author. So we have a very wide variety of topics to dive into today from someone who's really managed to take his passions and create business out of it while traveling around the world. So I mean, I speak for myself here, but I can say that that's a pretty interesting person to talk to on the podcast. So
Awesome.
Welcome, John.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you for joining us this last week in Momentom Collective, our artist residency here in Indonesia.
Yeah, it's been an absolute blast. And I want to start out with kind of your travel background. So you did a very extensive travel all over the world to the point where you have published a book about traveling around the world, right?
Yeah.
So just tell us a bit about where around the world have you traveled and your whole experience with that?
Yeah, good question. I started getting my marketing and management degree back in Saskatchewan, where I'm from. So university, did that full school thing, and then it wasn't really until I started traveling that I found my true education in life. And so ended up traveling, finished my degree abroad in France, kept traveling, loved it, and kind of kept finding ways to keep me traveling as I was going, from working on cruise ships in the Caribbean to going across Thailand and Central America as being different managers for travel experiences through Free and Easy Traveler, doing different blogs and writings and articles. And so never intended to write a book or travel for that long. I'm just wrapping up my 13th year of traveling, which is pretty wild. And just kind of kept on saying yes to things that would open up new avenues and new doors, new opportunities to find more ways to travel. And then has led me to meeting my good friends and business partners, Gabby and Therese, and now here we are. The three of us have co-founded Momentom Collective, an international community of people coming together to celebrate community through movement, arts, entrepreneurship, yoga, and kind of living this conscious lifestyle. So it's been quite the journey.
Quite the journey indeed. And I'm wondering how much of that was just surrendering to the flow of what was put in front of you, and how much of that was like rigid, planned out, hey, I'm gonna become this and do this, or did it really all just kind of come to you?
Nothing planned. Everything was definitely following the feel good, following that excitement of what kept me feeling alive. And a lot of people ask me that, like, how did you manage to travel for so long and find these different opportunities? And for me, it's the secret essentially is like adding value wherever I go. So in a conversation, like, how can I add value here? In an interaction with people, or if you can find a way to add value, people want to keep you around. When people want to keep you around, that eventually opens up into jobs or opportunities, or getting ways to get paid or getting things covered for free to continue adding value to situations, companies, hostels or groups or whatever it might be. So that's been the fun thing of just trying to be that avenue, that vehicle of adding value to any given situation.
Yeah, and that's something that I certainly try to emulate a lot more in my own life, because naturally I'm very much the type of person that I want a plan, and I want the next 3 years shaped out exactly how I'm going to achieve this, and like all the step by step. My brain naturally wants to do that, but I also really believe in surrendering is often the best way to achieve anything. Just like having the end result in mind, but not trying to force your path to happen there. So yeah. I always struggle with getting back more in the balance of surrendering to opportunities that come up and just saying yes to things instead of like really forcing my plan to actually happen.
Yeah. I mean, I feel we shut off our intuition a lot, and our intuition is built on ways that will work in our benefit, working with the little signs in the universe and life of saying, yep, this is good for your evolution. Life evolves through following that intuition. So following that feel good of like, okay, this is feeling good to me right now, and this is like opening up. And also when you see something in an avenue, not afraid to kind of get dirty and go in there and like really make those decisions that once you feel these signals that are coming up, these little blinkers that are going, yep, you're on the right path, and you have to make some big decisions there to either open a company or write a book or partner with certain people. And yeah, so it's not just the hippity-dippity thing of like, oh, it's all in flow, it's all going to manifest. Like putting that manifestation goal in place, surrendering to the path that can open up in front of you, but then also knowing when life's giving you enough signs to go, okay, now really fully commit to this thing, and really being present with that.
Yeah, totally love that. And guys, if you're looking to dive deeper into that concept, really recommend a book called The Surrender Experiment. Very, very interesting case study. I won't ruin it, but it's crazy real life story about surrendering. And that ties well into starting Momentom Collective, the business, right? So on the business side of things, you've been doing this for 3 years, correct?
Yep.
Momentom Collective?
Yep.
I mean, obviously in business, you do need to set certain things up in a certain way, right? So do you have the same kind of surrender to getting business things done? And do you think that your experiences through your travel and figuring these things out that come up for you have helped you start this business?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my partners, Gabby and Therese, they had formulated what, Momentom, the basics of it. It was combining and fusing circus flow arts with yoga. And again, the main concept and the main driver for what Momentom Collective is based on our artist residency. So that was very much something that following in flow of like, hey, we might want to be doing more classes, or we might want to be running a festival or doing performances, but sometimes you got to follow the feel good of like, hey, this is what people are responding to. Find the thing that you're doing well and then focus on that. So that ended up being what was really started to drive the literal momentum for our collective to find that growth and call in more people. More people were looking at coming together in a community to co-create and train and live together with like-minded people, and also share different ideas and network, and that whole kind of a concept. And I think a lot of that comes back to as well of traveling, and you find a lot of people when you're traveling, and once you get older after a certain while, and so many of us are working online now, we're wanting to find the places that we can be the most productive. So we're not just looking for the party hostels or the all-inclusive resorts that are kind of void of any real kind of connection. You're wanting to find that place where you're feeling inspired so you can continue to do your entrepreneurial work online, a place that balances movement with the analytical thought and all these things kind of together. And that's been another part of the residency, that we bring people together within that container.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how much of Momentom Collective that exists today, how much of that was in the original vision versus, like you mentioned that you wanted to do festivals and events and stuff like that, and did it start with that kind of vision and morph more into the community and the residency that it is today, or was that part of the original vision?
Yeah, the original vision, again, and it keeps shifting. We're trying to still follow into like what's really working and where we can continue to follow that excitement for us personally, and also like grow within our project. That's really important to us to grow within our own project. And so yeah, there was a lot of different kind of test things. We continue to test different things out from, we are still involved with a few festivals. We've partnered up with Cosmic Convergence Festival. We've got a big Momentum theme camp as well at Envision for our second year in a row in Costa Rica. So we've got some really cool things we are still doing performances and all of that. But the backbone of the company now is focused around residencies and community, for a place for people to come together, drop in like a long-term retreat, to come in and live. We've got a schedule of different activities, from yoga to Wim Hof breath to acro to tantra classes and different workshops. And it's
those were great this week, by the way.
Yeah,
surprisingly to me, the tantra classes were my favorite workshops I did all week.
Well, and that's a big part of our residency, is that it's this myriad of different things coming together, a whole bunch of different ideas and different people. And you might come for the aerial silks class, or the workshops to improve that, but then you end up walking away with more of the spirituality, or more of the tantra, or more of the community, or the networking, or the amazing locations. It's like all these things kind of bundled in. But that was never the original intention for what Momentom was going to be. And we're still formulating what we think it will be and continue to be. But that's where you have to really follow your business plan not follow the business plan, but follow the business flow of hey, like I really want to sell this. This is looking really good, but I'm selling more of this product or service, and this is where I'm finding more, the more you get into your business and your different plan, the more you listen to your customers and say, oh, this is actually what they're looking for. This is like, I don't want to push what I think they want. I want to listen to what they actually want. And that's where we came into realizing that the real kind of magic for what we had offered wasn't actually the performances and the different things. It was what was co-created when we had all those performers and those different artists and thinkers living together to train for the performance. That was the magic. So, and then you throw in there some other people, some digital nomads, some entrepreneurs, and you have this whole magical concoction and recipe for movement artists and entrepreneurs and founders of companies coming together to co-create and find that spark that can keep them inspiring to add value into their own lives and their own projects.
Yeah, and you just touched on something that I think you guys have nailed so spot on, which is your niching and your messaging. So this is something that my students usually struggle with in the beginning, to get these concepts and just how important they actually are. But what you just mentioned is, like, to a hyper specific level, you guys are niche straight down to a very specific type of person, right? Like circus flow artists who are also probably doing some kind of work online, digital nomad kind of space, entrepreneurs, creative people who want to work online in a beautiful tropical place. Like, that is incredibly niche down. But the value of being that niche down is that when you are speaking to that specific of a person, you are speaking to their soul. Like, you are speaking directly to them. And I am in that target demographic. I live in Indonesia running an online business, and I love to do acroyoga. And to me, like, when I come across Momentom, I'm like, that's my tribe. I found it. This, like, I need to go there. This is where I belong. Right? So, what was that whole process for you guys to really hone in your messaging and your niche like that? Did you, from the beginning, just like really have that clear of a niche, or was it more broad to begin and then did you dial it in? Yeah,
well, and that's a comment that we get all the time is oh my God, this is exactly what I was looking for, even though I didn't know I was looking for it. And like, I'm so happy that this type of community exists, because these are all the things that I love, all fused together with all the same like-minded people that I'm craving. So that's amazing that you feel the same way, and we get most people saying that exact same thing. So, the line was drawn of that, yoga draws on a lot of the similarities between circus flow arts. That hyper concentration, that fluid skill, the movement, kind of tapping both into body and spirit, all these things, fusing them together, and that was really the foundation of what Momentom kind of came out to be. And so from there, you just kind of have this continuing on from people that are getting into creating their own jobs online, or entrepreneurs and digital nomads, and that kind of like looking for that creative space in an amazing location that they can also incorporate movement into their life to keep the physical movement to go along with the analytical movement of ideas and things going, so there's no stagnancy. For me, the biggest thing to challenge writer's block or stagnancy is to get the body moving. You filter things through, all of a sudden thoughts can keep moving through clearly as well. And so what we've found is that people, even if they have no background or experience in maybe yoga or circus flow arts, they love coming here for that inspiration that comes in from seeing people really in their element with movement. And so we have, like you said, it's very niche, but yet it's very not niche, because what we have are variety of categories, from yogis to digital nomads to circus flow artists to performers and all that kind of a thing. But we don't, if you're really into one of the four, then you still fit in with us. It's one of those things where you might be a total beginner in one of them, or 3 out of the 4, but you're normally one of them you're really dialed into, whether it's having your own business online or really into your yoga practice or one of these things. So it's been really cool to see what happens when you have this mix of people that are new to something and very experienced in something. And that, I feel like, is the magic of having people that are coming together as both the student and the teacher. So everyone is on this platform of skill sharing, and that's been another big basis of how Momentom has grown into being. It's a place for people to share ideas and skills. So you were able to up-level each other, because coming together in a community, there's always so many different ideas and amazing things that can be shared, but normally it's not in a vehicle that can actually get that collaboration fostered. So we're in a place that we now offer these different classes and schedules where we can pull on things from both our guest teachers, our staff, and also from the residents themselves, so that everyone feels like they're part of the co-creation, and everyone is part of being both a student and a teacher in the same given week. So, and that's a powerful concept.
Yeah, super powerful, and that's probably my biggest takeaway from this week I've had at Momentum is the community that you guys have built around Momentum is a really strong one, and you guys do a bunch of just things that are shaped into every single week and into, you know, how we operate here, like just from having a gratitude circle before every dinner and just, you know, having weekly men's or women's circles and stuff like that. So maybe you can speak a little bit about, you know, what do you think are the real core pieces to put in place to foster such a strong community like you guys have built here at Momentum?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like that's been the magical question that not just communities like this, but just businesses in general. You know, money isn't the main currency anymore. It's community. It's like, how do I feel valued and a part of something greater than me through this company or through this job or through this service? And that's been the main thing. Like you see, going to headquarters at Google or some of these Silicon Valley places or places in Bali, and it's like these really comfy couches, and there's like, you know, it's a kind of a come and go. There's maybe foosball tables. It's that lifestyle of you just want to go there and hang out, and it's kind of like work on your own thing. It's no longer these just like offices where it's this blank cubicle, and like that isn't inspiring inspiration. That isn't bringing together the best of your ability. So yeah, community is definitely a huge part of both business and just life in general, to connect with other people. And so for us, the big part of community and even just creating culture is to be able to find different ways that people can step up in their own leadership. How can you create more leaders within the people that are around? So offering people the chance to lead a class or kind of voice their own truth within a community circle that we have once a week, to just chance to drop in, so everyone feels heard, everyone feels like you can hold space for each other and connect with each other, and everyone's on that equal level playing field. And that goes so far to just feeling really heard and really be able to voice out your truth at, you know, throughout any given day.
Yeah, real radical authenticity, right?
Yeah,
like
stepping into your true
deep
self.
level too, right?
Yeah.
Like the community circle, for example, like people are sharing a lot of, you know, very intimate things about themselves that in most Western societies people might not necessarily be sharing with their friends and even family members. Yeah. Right? So I just think the level of authenticity in these community circles and everything is just really inspiring.
Amazing. Yeah, and that's just it. If you can feel really free of this stagnant emotion, if you're able to really embody, you know, your truth, your authenticity, that you can really bring in, you're creating the space for your real ideas to come in and your real inspiration through your projects, your work, your movement practice, life in general. You can invite a lot more of that in. So definitely the keys for me for community are being able to provide that safe space so people feel comfortable to do that. Providing the leadership within the core team so that we're able to drop in with people, be real with them, and not feel like we're in a step above or anything. We're kind of still on this level playing field. Like the CEO of a company eating in the same lunchroom as his people, like that says a lot about the company culture. It's not in the separate boardroom where he never sees the people. You're right alongside with people and learning classes, and maybe even, you know, it's like the CEO coming in to learn a class being taught from one of the warehouse employees. It's that kind of a thing where you're like, everyone's on the level playing field of being a student and a teacher. So I feel that's really important to delegate that leadership and that trust for other people. And also finding ways to give public recognition. That's one of the top currencies in companies and cultures, is to make people feel like they're being appreciated, but throughout everyone involved. So even like something simple of we have the community building Buddha that we pass out. So we give that out, and whoever receives it, it's kind of this little speech like, today I'm passing the community building Buddha to someone who has been helping a lot of people with their practice and going above and beyond to help keep the spaces clean and kind of like dive in and be there for people, blah, blah, blah. And then you pass that off to that person, and they have 48 hours to then pass that on to someone else. And if you were a company, you could do something like that and then offer, maybe lunches included or something. You can find these different little bonuses. So it's like, again, not coming from the top down, it's coming from level to level of public recognition within the group or the company, and that goes so far.
Yeah, that is so important. So that just kind of brings me back to one of my biggest humbling moments in my business career so far. This is about 2 years ago, and at the time I had 3 employees, and back then I was not a very well-developed leader. I really had a long way to go as far as just being a good leader and running a team and everything like that. And I will be honest, I was projecting really negative things towards some of my employees. Like if they were doing things that, weren't up to my standards, I would just be projecting this energy towards them, like you are stupid is the energy I was projecting. It would just come across in our interactions, and it stressed me out, and they could pick it up. And then one day, all 3 of my employees just sat me down for a meeting, and they just straight up told me to my face, it's like, you need to change the way that you're communicating with us. You are an asshole. And for me, like, for someone, like, I don't look at myself as an asshole, and to me that was just a massive, massive wake-up call. Like, whoa, okay, like, I need to really be more conscious of the energy that I'm projecting to the team and this community here, because as the leader of that team, you are setting the company culture, and the whole dynamic of that is set from you. So it's really cool to see what you guys have figured out with that.
Oh, and on that as well, how many times, if you're the CEO or the leader or manager of a group of people, how many times do you interact with people but only to give them shit? How many times do you talk to people just to scold them or tell them something to do or something that they're doing wrong? No, like, you got to balance that out. Like, you want people to be excited when they're approached by you and not just feel like, oh crap, I did something wrong. Like, that's not adding value, right? And that's where it comes back to, like, how can you continuously add value within every conversation that you have and every interaction or every little given experience when you're bringing people together? And how often do you bring people together? I feel like in a lot of corporate culture and companies, you're either only together to discuss meetings or in like kind of these forced like events or outings that don't feel good. So how can you keep people together so you're interacting with people both on the lifestyle, the business, the interactions, and because the more comfortable you feel with people, the more connection you have and space for ideas to come and flow, and voices, you feel comfortable to voice your ideas, and sometimes those ideas are the ones that really are a game changer for your project or you're moving forward with a negotiation or any of these things. So, keeping that space and that container for people to voice out their ideas and not feel ashamed if it's like, okay, thank you for sharing that, but like, I don't think that's going to work in this instance, and blah, blah, blah. But keeping that open, because you always want to get the most out of people. So, yeah,
so important. And there's another really interesting page in your book here, is you becoming a published author. And you have a very interesting story about how that came about. You went the self-publishing route, which was, well, some would say, very, very difficult route to do, but you were successful in making that happen and putting the whole thing together. So tell us a little bit about what that whole experience was like, and a little bit about your book.
Yeah, perfect. The book is called Tales of the Modern Nomad, subtitle Monks, Mushrooms, and Other Misadventures. So it's definitely it's based on 10 years of traveling around the world and how you learn the most from situations when they go wrong. That's normally how you learn the most. Just like an entrepreneur, you're gonna learn the most and learn how to move forward and be successful through learning from your mistakes and pushing through them in a way that's like, okay, perfect. When you're traveling to Asia, and on a shoestring budget, whatever, there things are gonna go wrong. There's gonna be some long travel days and things. So, same thing with being an entrepreneur. When you're opening up, going into these ventures, putting on all these different hats, trying to figure things out, that things are gonna be challenging, and you're gonna have to just go, all right, sweet, like, bring it on, we got this. And so I was always writing a lot. It was based on 15 journals that I wrote over my decade plus of travels. And so I love to write down the funky things and all the nitty gritty and the stuff that a lot of people wouldn't ever dare to share with their family or friends. And that's what people normally want to read. So from either getting robbed in Mexico to getting freaky monk massages in Thailand to learning from medicinal plants with shaman in Peru, or with the Huichol people in Central America. There's so many different ways that I dive into the craziness of traveling, and again, how can I find value in when a situation goes wrong, and how can I learn myself and have these internal reflections to learn things when it's not exactly gone as planned. And so it's been an amazing journey to get this out. People often say, oh, you should write a book, or you should write a book. And well, I had enough signs that said yes. All right, I'm going to make the decision to go into this. So it ended up taking about a 2-year process to get an editor and compile everything together. It's very design heavy, so it's got lots of photos and lots of art sketchings from my journals. And it was not an easy process. It was a lot of effort and work, but the real value was for me even just the process of writing a book. So you're looking at life, for those 2 years that I was writing it, every day I'd wake up and go, is today going to be a day that I live something that's worth putting into this book, living a life worth journaling? And so it was really a fun process to try and extract any given experience in any given day into a way of, okay, how can I take that experience, condense it into a readable format, switch it around so it's entertaining and gripping, and have some value that the reader would get out of it. So when you start shifting and looking life through that, of how can I interpret what I'm doing today into a way that can benefit other people's lives, or put a smile on someone's face, or make it entertaining, that's a really powerful lesson in itself of living a life worth journaling, worth sharing through story.
I really love that too, because what you're explaining, I've never really thought of it that way, but I do experience the same thing as a content creator, as someone who is just putting out videos and creating podcasts and all that kind of stuff. It's almost like you're thinking of yourself as the hero in your own story. And I love that analogy of, what would the hero of the book of you be doing right now? And just looking at your life and your decisions from that lens, I think can be such a powerful thing, right? Because it really cuts out all the bullshit of, I wonder what this person's gonna think of me, if I do this and I fail, am I gonna look stupid, and all this stuff. That kind of stuff seems silly when you look at it from the lens of, what would the hero of my story do? Because it's just your hero does hero shit. He just does it, right? Yeah.
And removing the filters of, what would my certain friend or family member or whatever think if I talked about this embarrassing story, or something that's taboo, or about psychedelics, or any of these kinds of things, and just be true to myself of if I'm reading this book, what do I want to read about? Well, I want to read about the craziest things. If someone's traveled the world for a decade, give me the dirt, give me the craziness. And so removing that filter of okay, am I writing this book for me, or am I writing it for my avatar, my audience member, the person that I'm writing for? Because I think a lot of times as a content creator, we're automatically thinking of who the first person to like it or make that comment is going to be, or the person that's either going to hate it. So you're either filtering it on both of those extremes of I'm going to delete that post because my ex-girlfriend's going to slam all over that, or okay, these people are going to love it, so I'm going to write that. But really honing in on your audience of who is my demographic here, who's my avatar. So picking that person that I was writing to is really, really beneficial of what's their age, what's their preference, or how much have they traveled, what are the other podcasts they listen to, or these kinds of things, and really honing in on that person and writing to that person the same way you would a product or a service. Is my messaging for me, or for the people that I think would dig it, or is it actually for the person that's going to benefit from my product or service? So really honing in on that voice has been really beneficial for being a content creator and author, and also just having a business to promote and advertise to people.
Yeah, and I'm really curious too about the entire process of actually writing the book. Myself, I really enjoy writing about philosophy, just really reflecting on my own philosophical kind of ponderings, whatever I'm going through currently in my life. And I'm wondering for you, when you went through the process of really distilling all your experiences that you had from all your travels and everything, was this like a philosophical process for you, just really like distilling like what are all the learnings and the teachings and everything that I've learned from all my travels? Was that kind of a part of the process?
Yeah, it was a challenge, because some things you knew you had to include in the book, and some of them you wouldn't want to write about, or like even I had some very challenging ayahuasca ceremonies going into the Amazon in Peru, and there were some of those moments I didn't really feel like digging up again, but I knew that's going to be part of the book, because if I'm talking about things like plant medicine and psychedelics, I'm not going to just shine a light and make it all fluffy and like fun. I want to talk about the challenging aspects of it as well. But I think the biggest thing for me was I spent a lot of time in advance already segmenting my content. So I had already digitized a lot of my journals. I was already putting them in to Word documents and online documents, and then separating them into either by category of where they happened, or putting, like, this was a cool quote, I'm going to put this into a document just for cool quotes. I'm going to put this into a document just for cool words, like, definitions of cool words. I'm going to put this just into a thing of like the crazy cultural stories, or like lost in something that would fall under lost in translation, and really trying to categorize things so that it was much easier to dissect, pick, and edit. If we were going through with my editor, okay, we need a cool quote or a cool caption for this photo, I could just go through, I'd have everything highlighted for what's already been used, and go, okay, here's one, boom, let's plug that in. So it was definitely that process of like really going into that self-reflection. But if people are considering it right now, the more you can categorize your photos, your content, the better, the easier it's going to be. And then from there I went, okay, I originally was going to just have everything be totally random in the book. There's going to be no chapters and everything. It was just going to be random content. I thought that'd be really fun and really cool. So like flip to any page kind of a thing. But my editor goes, okay, people still read a book front to back, right? So it still has to have some sort of a story arc and kind of a thing to go through. So we did segment things into chapters to give it that story arc and that kind of like conclusion as well. And but the more you could categorize your content, the more you can look at things and go, okay, this goes in this part, this goes in this part, and we would edit things in certain chunks and have this massive Word doc that we then submitted to our designer to help facilitate and put things into a readable book. So it was definitely a big process. Again, it took 2 years from the start of going, okay, I'm committing to this, I'm writing a book, to actually getting out on the shelves. But I couldn't be happier with the process. And just like anything else, you're investing not just in a product and service that you can sell, you're investing in your own self, your own self-worth, and even the title of being a published author. It's like, that is going to be with me forever. The book even won some awards. I'm an award-winning published author, so if I'm giving a talk somewhere or dropping in anywhere, that's like that added bit of credit, like you're going to university. You've got that piece of paper with your name attached to it. That's kind of what you've invested in. So you've proven that, hey, I've got that experience under my belt. So that's been a really fun takeaway from things as well.
Yeah, the social proof from that, I'd imagine, is just like you're a published author, right? It gives you can put that just like MD in front of your name. Exactly. for doctor, yeah. Right? And a lot of interesting opportunities, I'm sure, are going to be opening up from that. Mm-hmm. Well, John, this has been an absolutely fascinating episode. We've gone across all sorts of different domains here, and you've just lived a very interesting life up to this point and are continue to do really fascinating things. So if people want to reach out to you or learn more about Momentom online, where are the best places for them to do so?
Yeah, perfect. MomentomCollective.com. That's Momentom, O-M at the end, Momentom. And as well, we've got artist residencies around the world: Indonesia, Guatemala, Nicaragua. We're going to be at Envision Festival in Costa Rica coming up. Lots of cool things. Come and check us out. And it'll be a unique experience unlike anything else. It's a traincation or a conscious travel, kind of fused in together. So, and as well, if people are interested in my book, Tales of the Modern Nomad, they can go to modernnomad.ca and find out some more through my blogs. We've got a podcast as well, the Momentom Collective podcast. Lots of great content on there. And definitely just reach out and we'll connect and we can share some stories and share ways to add value into this big, crazy world.
Heck yeah. And my final question for you is, if there is a podcast listener right now who is wanting to go off and do their own thing and they want to just go for it, but they're just really having the doubts and the hesitations, what kind of advice would you have for this person?
Yeah, I think if you're in that position in life that you're able to do it, do it. To me, it's been the biggest investment into my own self, is to do independent solo travels, because then I'm able to open up to communities like this when I'm wanting to. I'm able to invest in the time to myself. To me, travel and entrepreneurship go hand in hand, because if you're traveling and going for something, you're being an entrepreneur every day, just going out and, all right, we've got to put a budget together for how long I can travel for, or we're going to have to, be an entrepreneur and trying to learn language and communicate and to go out throughout these different things, and how I can extract the most of my resources, or get creative with when things go wrong, because that's part of being an entrepreneur as well, as putting out some fires and then also learning from them, staying positive. So I would say this is some of the best investment you can go into your own self-worth, your own internal process, and to just commit to it. That, hey, so many of us are so fortunate to have a lot of opportunities waiting for us when we go home, or if things go poorly or whatever. So what have you got to lose? Go for it and follow it. It'll be worth it.
Amen to that, brother. And guys, I really recommend, if you are interested in the Momentom stuff, if that resonates with you, I had a great time out here this week, really connected with some awesome people, and had a great time learning a lot about different movements and tantra and all that kind of stuff in a really beautiful location. So definitely recommend them. And if you guys haven't already, go leave us a review on iTunes, on Stitcher, wherever you guys listen to this podcast app. Still a fairly new podcast, so every single review really counts there. And it better be a 5-star one too, because if not, I'm gonna make a bunch of Facebook retargeting ads of just really annoying stuff that's gonna pop up on your screen, and it's gonna hassle you. So better be 5 stars, or I'm gonna be mad and I'm gonna retarget you with a bunch of Facebook ads. So
watch out.
Until next time, guys, take care, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us on the Danny Carlson podcast. For resources mentioned in this episode, visit dannycarlson.co.